Very good morning, everyone. Well, this is Pooja Visaria. I'm going to take a very easy topic for you all, and that is the basic of chemistry, guys, wherein we are going to understand what is valency and what is balancing. Yeah, to begin with, guys, as we can see on the screen right now, we have a very simple picture over there. Fine, it's a campsite. Yeah, I have a very simple question for all of you guys. What all things you see in this campsite? In a very simple term, imagine if you're going to a camp and what all things you see in your surrounding. You can answer in chat box, guys. Yes, super. Absolutely correct, guys. We can see tent over there. We can see lake, river. I mean water. We can see mountains. We can see trees, fire. Of course, fantastic. So there are a lot of things which we see in our surrounding. Exactly in the same way, right now we're sitting in a lecture, we'll be having a lot of things in our surrounding as well, and that is computer, maybe laptop, maybe mobile. We'll be having books, we'll be having some paper, pen, fine, we'll be sitting on a chair or a table or a bed, fine. So there are a lot of things in our surrounding. One very important point to note here, guys, there are a lot of things in our surrounding having two common things. One, they all have mass, and second, they all occupy space. I repeat, all the things in our surrounding have two common things. One, they have mass, and second, they all occupy space. So here we can come to know a very simple term which we have already learned in our past, that is matter. So what is matter, guys? Matter is anything that occupies space and has mass is called as matter. I repeat, anything that has mass, occupies space is called as matter. Now, when I talk about matter, there are so many matter in our surrounding. Fine. So matter is further divided into based on two different categories. One, based on physical properties, we have three states of matter. One is solid, second is liquid, third is gas. Actually, there are total five states of matter, that is solid, liquid, and gas. Apart from that, we have plasma and Bose-Einstein condensate. But we focus only on three states of matter, that is solid, liquid, and gases. Apart from that, based on chemical properties, matter is further divided into three more categories. To understand this, as we can see here, there is a coal and we are burning this coal. In a coal, there's one element which is very important, and that is carbon. So what I say is this is the substance which consists of one simplest form of a matter, that is carbon. I repeat the statement, it is the simplest form. When I say simplest form, you cannot divide it further, you cannot break it further. This itself is the simplest form. You cannot simplify it further. So elements are the substance, purest form of the substance, which you cannot divide further. So these are the purest form of the matter. Now, when this carbon is burnt, in short, that coal was burnt, this carbon combines with oxygen present in the nature. Now, when this carbon and oxygen comes together, we get a very important substance, and the name of this substance is carbon dioxide. So we get a compound. So what is compound now? When two or more elements chemically combined. I repeat again, when two or more elements, as we can see, there is carbon, there is oxygen, there's one atom of carbon, there are two atoms of oxygen. So when two or more elements chemically combined in a fixed proportion, I'll take one more example, that is water. When I take water, there is hydrogen and oxygen, but there's a fixed proportion. You may take lake water, you may take river water, you may take well water, any water you take precise, you will be having two hydrogen and one oxygen only. So that is a fixed proportion. So two or more elements chemically combined in a fixed proportion is known as compound. Apart from that, we have third category based on chemical properties. For that, we'll take one simple example. On this site again, we saw water bodies, we saw fire, we saw about carbon combining with oxygen. Now, in air, fine, when I say air, air consists of a lot of gases. It is nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, water vapor. There are many gases apart from this as well. But every individual gas possess their own characteristic. It is as good as जब हम भेल खाते हैं, fine. In bhel you have kurmura, you have save, tomato, potato. Fine. Every individual substance has its own characteristic, which has been found in that particular substance. Same way, air consists of so many gases, but every gas carries its own characteristics. This is called as mixtures. So what is mixture? Very simple, either two or more elements or two or more compounds. I repeat, either two or more elements or two or more compounds mixed together. There's a very simple difference, guys. In compound, it was chemically combined. In mixture, we are saying they're mixed together in any proportion. There is no fixed proportion required as such, right? Mixed in any proportion is called as mixtures. Fine. So this was the basic bifurcation, that was elements, compounds, and mixtures. Now moving further, guys, the basic unit of element. It was said by Maharishi Kanath as well as Greek philosopher Democritus that everything in our surrounding is made up of very small particle. And as per Democritus, that very small particle is called as atom. So matter is made up of an atom, right? Now, this atom consists of few important characteristics we have already learned in our past, but right now we are focusing on two important terms. So for that, let's understand the base of it first. An atom consists of atomic number and atomic mass number. Now, when I say atomic number, what do you mean by atomic number? Very simple. The total number of electrons or protons. I repeat, the total number of electrons or protons are called as atomic number. So atomic number is either number of protons or number of electrons, either number of protons or number of electrons. So how do I write in a mathematical expression? I can write in this way, that Z is equals to P is equals to E. Fine. So if any atom consists of two electron, obviously its number of proton would be 2. Its number of atomic number will also be 2. Apart from that, we also have something called as atomic mass number. Now, when I say atomic mass number, guys, it's very simple. Atomic mass number is denoted by letter A, which is equals to total number of protons and neutrons, which is equals to total number of protons and neutrons. Fine. So this is how we can easily identify the atomic number and atomic mass number using number of protons, number of neutrons, and number of electrons. Fine. But in this particular case, guys, we are not interested to understand that what exactly atomic mass number. We are focused on atomic number, and as I said, it is number of electrons or number of protons. Now, there was one scientist by the name Mr. Niels Bohr. He was the one who said that these electrons are distributed in different shells. We call it as electronic configuration. So to understand electronic configuration, we need to understand a very simple rule called as 2n square. Now what n indicates? Very simple. This n indicates ordinal number like 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So this n indicates basically number. Okay. To begin with, suppose for example, I'm talking about the first shell, which in turn chemically called as K shell. That is the first shell. So instead of n, I'll write 1. Now simple maths, guys, 2n square. So instead of n, if I put 1, it becomes 2 into 1 square, which gives you ultimately 2 electrons. So that is the maximum capacity of the shell, that is 2 electrons. Moving further, second shell, that is L shell. L means second shell. So instead of n, I'll write 2. So it becomes 2 into 2 square. So answer is yes, absolutely correct, guys. That is 8 electrons. So maximum capacity of second shell is 8 electrons. Same way M shell. Now this is third shell, guys. So let's write, instead of n, we'll write 3. So it becomes 2 into 3 square. 3 square, 3 3s are 9, 9 2s are 18. So obviously the shell capacity is 18 electrons. And so is with N shell, that is the fourth shell, the maximum capacity will become 32 electrons. So guys, these are maximum capacity of the shell. Apart from this maximum capacity, there is something called as minimum capacity. When I say minimum capacity, what exactly I'm trying to make you understand here? Let's understand. To understand this minimum capacity, we are going to move further to know the meaning of valency. Now, what is valency? Valency is basically called as combining capacity. In olden days, people used to say that valency can be measured using hydrogen. Now, how they used to measure? Very simple. Suppose I have oxygen. Okay. Now, oxygen combines with two hydrogen. So, oxygen's combining capacity is 2 because it combines with two hydrogen. Suppose if I take chlorine, chlorine combines with only one hydrogen. So combining capacity of chlorine is going to be 1. Suppose if I take nitrogen, nitrogen combines with 3 hydrogen. So I can clearly see the combining capacity of nitrogen is 3. So in olden days, people used to measure the combining capacity using number of hydrogen. But later, people came up with a very easiest option, and that is called as based on the number of electrons. I repeat, we can easily identify the valency using number of electrons. Now, how do we do that? Let's understand. So first of all, what is valency? Valency is, of course, combining capacity of an element. Fine. It is the number of element required to combine with other element in a fixed proportion. So based on valency, actually, we are getting the fixed proportion in a compound. Now, valency depends upon valence electron. Now, what do you mean by valence electron? Suppose if I say sodium, sodium atomic number is 11. So when I distribute electrons, first shell capacity is 2, second shell capacity is 8, third shell capacity is 1. So the valence electron, that is the electron present in the last shell, is 1. This is called as valence electron. So elements combining capacity depends upon valence electron. In short, valency depends upon valence electron. Okay. Now, when I talk about the valence electron, for that we need to understand one very important rule, and that is called as the basic capacity, matlab minimum capacity of the element. So let's understand the term stability. It says if an atom has only one shell, I repeat, if an atom has only one shell, and the capacity of that one shell, that is the first shell, is 2 electrons. So if an atom has one and only one shell having 2 electrons in it, that indicates an atom is stable with duplet state. I repeat, an atom having only one shell and that is filled with 2 electrons, that means an atom is stable with duplet state. We have only one element which is in duplet state, that is helium. Apart from that, other atoms having other than first shell, I repeat, having other than first shell, it can be second shell, third shell, fourth shell, fifth shell, any shell other than first shell, and having 8 electrons in it. In a very simple term, if second shell is the last shell, or third shell is the last shell, or fourth shell is the last shell, whatever may be their capacity, they should have 8 electrons. If they have 8 electrons, that means they are stable with octet state. We have few example here. It is neon and argon. They are stable with octet state. Apart from that, we have 3 more elements like krypton, xenon, and radon. These are also stable with octet state. Okay. So what happens is all the elements apart from these elements are called as noble elements, inert gases. Fine. So apart from these elements, rest all the element will try to attain the stability. Now, how do they attain the stability? Very simple. To attain that stability, they will try to complete their duplet or octet state. In short, they are not complete. So they'll try to complete themselves. They'll try to become stable. And to become stable, they have to apply a rule. GST. Yes, guys, I'm talking about GST. ये maths वाला GST नहीं है, guys. When I say GST, G for giving, S for sharing, T for taking. They'll go ahead with GST. Means either they will lose electron, or they will take electron, or they will share electron. Fine. So we'll take one simple example to understand here. Suppose I have 4 electrons, exact 4 electron in the outermost shell. So if I have exact 4 electron in the outermost shell, what it will do? It will share electron. Where there should be 4 electron in the outermost shell. But if there are less than 4 electron in the outermost shell, then they will donate electron. If they have less than 4 electron in the outermost shell, they will donate electron. And if they have more than 4 electron, that is 5, 6 or 7 electron in the outermost shell, then they will take electron. Then they will take electron. Fine. So donate, share and take. Okay. कितना donate करेगा? जितना है उतना donate करेगा. If they have 1 electron, they'll donate 1. They have 2, they'll donate 2. They have 3, they'll donate 3. If they have more than 4 electron, they will take electron. How many electron will they take? जितना है 8 बनाने के लिए जितना चाहिए उतना. So to become stable, whatever number of electrons are required, like 5, then they'll take 3. If there are 6, they'll take 2. If there are 7, they'll take 1. So this is how we can identify valency. This is called as valency, guys. So what is valency? It's very simple. Combining capacity that completely depends upon GST, giving, sharing and taking of electrons. Okay, one more very important point. After losing electron, an atom becomes positively charged. After taking electron, an atom becomes negatively charged. Positively charged ions are called as cations and negatively charged ions are called as anions. Fine. So this is a very simple logic. Positively charged ions are called as anions. Negatively charged ions are called as cations. Fine. Okay. Now, here I have taken certain examples which are the first 20 elements in a way whose valencies are written over here, like hydrogen electronic configuration is 1, so valency is 1. Helium electronic configuration is 2, valency is 0 because they will neither take nor lose nor share electron. Fine. So these are the valencies of few important elements, as we can see on the screen, guys. And here, as you can clearly see, that there are helium, neon. These are few elements. They don't have valency. In short, they are stable. Fine. They are stable because they don't have valency here. Valency is 0. Right. Now, okay. Now, I have made one small chart here to remember. You should remember the valency as well as their symbols. If you know this, trust me, it becomes very simple to make chemical formulas and to make chemical equations. This become very, very, very simple for us. Okay. So, guys, there's a small trick to remember this valency chart. I'll quickly go through this. I've just converted this into a small tune, which will become very easy for us to remember. Okay, so to begin with, OH hydroxide, Cl chloride, Br bromide, I iodide, no 3 nitrate, I iodide, no 3 nitrate, HCO3 bicarbonate. Bolo HCO3 bicarbonate. AlO2 aluminate, Ag silver, Na sodium, H hydrogen के पोटेशियम, H hydrogen के पोटेशियम, Li है लिथियम, NH4 अमोनियम, ClO hypochlorite, HSO3 bisulfite, HSO4 bisulfate, ClO3 है क्लोरेट, MnO4 परमैंगनेट. इन सब की वैलेंसी है 1. U uranium, Ca calcium, Mg magnesium, Ni nickel cobalt causing Zn, Ni nickel cobalt causing Zn, Ba है बेरियम. बोलो Ba है बेरियम. S सल्फाइड O ऑक्साइड, O2 है पेरोक्साइड. SiO3 सिलिकेट O3 सल्फाइड, SiO3 सिलिकेट O3 सल्फाइड, PbO2 है प्लम्बाइट. बोलो PbO2 है प्लम्बाइट. Cr2O7 डाइक्रोमेट, CrO4 क्रोमेट, CO3 कार्बोनेट O4 सल्फेट, CO3 कार्बोनेट O4 सल्फेट, जिंकेट है ZnO2. इन सब की वैलेंसी है 2. PO4 phosphate, N is nitrite, PO3 है phosphite, aluminium AlCr chromium, aluminium AlCr chromium, सबकी valency है 3, but carbide shows valency 4. So this is the easiest way to remember the valency chart, guys. Now, why to remember valency chart? We'll understand in a while. Apart from this normal valencies, we have variable valencies as well. Now, when I say variable valency, what do you mean by that? As we can see on the screen, there are few elements having more than one valency. Element having more than one valency is called as variable valency. I repeat, element having more than one valency is called as variable valency. So we can see copper has 1 and 2. Now there are two ways to remember which valency is to be used. First way, the old way I can say, which used to say that when I write cuprous, so when the suffix is ous, we use the small valency out of the two valencies are there. And when I say cupric, so when I use the suffix ic, then we are using higher valency out of the two valencies which that atom possess. But this was the old method. Later, we got one more method of valency, and that is now we have started writing copper 1 or copper 2, where this 1 and 2 itself indicates the number of valency. And so these are the valencies. Out of this, we have to mainly focus on copper and iron. This is the frequently used element, and so we need to know this. Okay, apart from that, we have to remember rest of the valencies along with their symbols. Fine, so make sure we remember all the valencies along with their symbol. Fine, then and only then we'll be able to write the chemical formulas correctly. Now, how to frame the chemical formulas? So let's understand. When I say chemical formula for the compound, it consists of two parts. One is cation, that is basic radical, and second is anion, that is acidic radical. So we have two parts. One is cation, second is anion. Fine, that is acidic radical and basic radical. Okay, now when I talk about the ionic compounds, I mean any compound, as you can see on the screen, there are a few steps. Suppose if I want to write sodium sulfate, so this is sodium, that is Na, and this is sulfate, that is SO4. Fine, now when I say sodium sulfate, it is sodium valency 1, sulfate valency 2. We just have to exchange their valency and we'll get the compound as Na2SO4. Let's understand with the help of few more example here. To understand the next example, here we have potassium hydroxide. So first what we have to do, we have to write the symbols. Potassium symbol is K, hydroxide symbol is OH, potassium valency is 1, OH valency is 1. Now you exchange their valencies, you'll get the formula as KOH. Let's take one more example. Magnesium chloride. Magnesium is Mg, chloride is Cl. Magnesium valency is 2, chloride valency is 1. When I say magnesium valency 2, chloride valency 1, we just have to exchange their valencies here. When we do so, we'll get the formula as MgCl2. Fine. Let's take one more example. Silver nitrate. Silver is Ag, nitrate is NO3. Okay. Ag valency is 1, nitrate valency is 1. Once again, just crisscross. Make sure we're crisscrossing the valencies. We are not crisscrossing the formula number. Once we do that, we'll get the formula as Ag1 NO31. We don't mention 1 over there. We'll simply write AgNO3. The next is aluminium oxide. Aluminium symbol is Al, oxide is O. Aluminium valency 3, oxide valency 2. Just simply crisscross. You'll get the formula as Al2O3. Fine. Okay, let's take one more example. Now we're going to write ammonium. So ammonium is NH4, sulfate is SO4. Fine. Now what exactly I'm trying to say is these are compound radicals. These are compound radicals, means more than one atom is present in the form of charge. Okay. Now ammonium valency is 1, sulfate valency is 2. When I crisscross the NH4, that is ammonium, after crisscrossing it is getting a number which is bigger than 1. So we need to mention a bracket over there and then we need to write the formula. So this becomes NH4 twice SO4. Okay, so this is the formula over here, that is NH4 twice SO4. Fine. This is ammonium sulfate. Now, where do we use these formulas? Very simple. We use all these formulas to mention the equations, that is chemical equations. Now, what do you mean by chemical equation? It is the short form of chemical reaction. The representation in the form of formulae is known as chemical equation. Suppose I have an equation on the screen right now, that is NH4OH plus HCl giving us NH4Cl plus H2O. Here, the left hand side is and right hand side are two sides of chemical equation, where left hand side consists of two substances over there which are separated by plus sign. This is called as reactant side, and on the right hand side we have products. Reactants and products are generally separated by an arrow. Arrow point towards product side, normally towards product side, but that indicates the direction of reaction. Means, as we can see, there is one single arrow. So we'll say this is irreversible reaction. You're not going to get your original substance back. But instead of that, if I have this kind of arrow, then this is called as reversible reaction, where the chances of getting original substance are very high. Okay, so this is called as reversible and irreversible. Okay, so we are here not going in much depth of chemical equations. We just need to understand one very important parameter of chemical equation, and that is, there was one scientist by the name Mr. Anthony Lavoisier. According to him, the left hand side and the right hand side, in short the reactant and product side, their atomic mass has to be equal. In short, the total mass on the reactant side should be always equal to the total mass on the product side. So more precisely, which was known as conservation of matter, is called as that matter is neither created nor destroyed by any chemical reaction. But logically, when we write a chemical equation, we write using valency. So there are very high chances that the number gets disturbed. So we need to balance this equation. So how to balance this equation? Very simple. We need to make the number of atoms of the elements on the left hand side and the right hand side should be equal. How should we do that? There are two methods given to us. One is called as hit and trial method, and second is called as partial equation method. But the common method what we use and we should use is hit and trial method. Okay, so I'll be giving you one simple or rather few stupid rules. Okay, rule number one, these are no written rules in book, but these are basic rules which we should apply. Rule number one, always go from left to right for balancing. I repeat, always go from left to right for balancing. Rule number two, always multiply number before formula. You should never add, subtract or divide. You should always multiply number before formula. Third rule, after writing any number, yes, this I say always, after writing any number, look at the bajuwala. I repeat, after writing any number, always look at the bajuwala. When I say look at the bajuwala, you have to look at the number which is getting affected because of the number we have multiplied. And the last most important point, if you don't get the number to multiply, then use the concept of odd number. So odd ko banao even. Odd ko banao even. Now how should we do that? Very simple, by multiplying 2. And so these are 4 basic rules which we need to apply. First, go left to right. Second, multiply the number before formula. Look at the bajuwala. Odd ko banao even by multiplying 2. Okay. Now we'll take certain example to understand the balancing. So let's quickly take few easy examples here. Okay, to start with, here I have a reaction Mg plus N2 giving us Mg3N2. So look at the left hand side. Mg will start from left to right. So left hand side Mg is 1, right hand side Mg is 3. Now simple, we cannot make 3 1, but we can make 1 3. Okay, so let's multiply by 3 on left hand side. Okay, now let's check the next element. Here we have N. N we can see 2 on left, 2 on right, so it is already balanced. In short, the equation is balanced. Fine, so this is how we will be doing the balancing. Let's take one more example. Here we have Al plus H2O giving you Al2O3 plus H2. So Al on left hand side, it is 1 on left, 2 on right. So simple, let us make 2 on left hand side by multiplying 2. Now h on left hand side is 2, h on right hand side is also 2. So no need to multiply anything there. So let's check another element. The next element we have here is O. As you can clearly see, O on left hand side is 1, O on right hand side is 3. अब 1 को 3 हम कैसे बना सकते हैं? Very simple, just multiply H2O by 3. When I do so, the rule says after writing any number, look at the bajuwala. Who is the bajuwala? H. H becomes 3 2s are 6. So we need to change the number of hydrogen here, multiply there by 3. So this becomes 3 2s are 6. Fine. So this is the number of, this is how we are going to do the balancing, guys. Okay. Now I'm going to show you certain equation which you have to balance. Come on, your task starts. Super. It becomes K1 on left, 1 on right, BR1 on left, 2 on right. So let's make KBR2 by multiplying 2. Now K gets affected, K becomes 2. So let's multiply KCl by 2. Look at the bajuwala, Cl becomes 2, Cl is already 2. So reaction is balanced. Okay, let's take another example here. P2O5. Okay, it's very simple. P2 on left, P1 on right. Let's multiply by 2 here. After writing a number, look at the bajuwala. H becomes 2 3s are 6. Let's multiply here by 3. O becomes 3 plus 5, total 8. And here it is 2 4s are 8. See, it got balanced. Okay, let's take another example. Na2O plus H2O giving you NaOH. So once again, Na2 on left, 1 on right. Let's multiply by 2. Look at the bajuwala. O becomes 2. Here O is 1 plus 1, that is 2. H becomes 2. Here H is 2. So it is again balanced. Fine. So this is the balancing, guys. I'll take one more example. Little complicated. Let's do that. NH3 plus O2 giving you NO plus H2O. Let's do this. N is 1 on left, 1 on right. H is 3 on left, 2 on right. But we cannot get 2 in 3 stable. We cannot get 3 in 2 stable. So we have to go ahead with a concept called as odd man out. Fine. So here we have 3 odd. Odd ko banao even. How? By multiplying 2. N becomes 2. So let us multiply here by 2. H becomes 2 3s are 6. Let's make this hydrogen 6 by multiplying 3. Now check oxygen. Oxygen becomes 3 plus 2, 5. Whereas here it is 2. Again there is odd even. So let's check. As you can see, 3 is odd. So let us multiply 3 by 2 again. So this becomes 6. 3 2s are 6. So let's multiply this by 6. Now H becomes 6 2s are 12. So we'll have to make this 4 3s are 12. N becomes 4. So let us multiply this by 4. O becomes 4 plus 6, 10. So let's make it 10 by multiplying 5. So this kind of question may come. That is why the method is called as hit and trial method, guys. Fine. That is why the method is called as hit and trial method. We are done, guys. I hope you understood the valency and balancing. Here we go. Here we end this lecture, guys. Thank you so very much. Bye, everyone.